Hello and welcome back. Sean here, Mountains Garage. On a Saturday afternoon, dodging rainstorms today. I need to set up the chop saw outside and do some cutting before it rains again, right after I do the intro for today's project. A week ago or so, I picked up this Metal Pro 4000 Ironworker. And in another video a week ago, we took it from a storage unit and made it functional. It works, and I didn't show you it working in the last video, but I will in this one, I think. This workstation, the shear station, which cuts flat bar, round stock, and angle iron, all you got to do is pull this pin and take out a 1/2-inch bolt on either side, and that frees up this bay. The punch station, relatively permanent, but I have this amount to work with. So the night I talked to the gentleman that owned this, I went ahead and bought a press brake that goes in a press, and it's 12 inches wide, hoping it would fit. Well, the working area is 12 inches wide. The whole thing's about 15. There was no dimensions on the ad where I bought it, but long story short, it does not fit between the cylinder and this piece here. I have a hydraulic one with electric motor hooked to it, electric pump over there. I've showed it to you in the past. It's got a 7 or 8 inch working distance, and the V, where the knife pushes into it, is pretty generous, so it kind of leaves a curve, and it has its purpose. It does not make a crisp angle, but that's okay. The one I bought, I haven't even used yet, and I'll go show it to you in a second, is a nice looking rig, and it literally, I put it together, and with a piece of metal that I have, it's ready to go in my other press. So I don't really need one for this, but you know me, I like to get a piece of equipment and dedicate enough time to it on the beginning of the ownership of it so it's functional from there on. There's too much other stuff that are many other projects that take forever. You can't just get them to the point. This is something that helps you with a project, so I like to dedicate time, which is, you know, like everybody else, at a premium sometimes, and the more fun stuff you get, the more other stuff seems to get in the way. It's been a really busy week, but that's okay. I knew a friend of mine had this large hydraulic press brake, electric over hydraulic, and I had helped him haul it home. This is 4 or 5 years ago. And that day, it also came with a wooden crate full of knives and pieces, you know, the upper or lower pieces of a press brake, various sizes, because you could put in different fingers in the machine. There was a ton of them, more than it seemed that machine would even take. So this week earlier, I sent him a text. I said, hey, do you still have that wooden crate full of knives and whatever you want to call them, the press brake pieces? I told him what I wanted to do, build probably an 8-inch brake. And the next day, I met him at his shop, and he had some pieces for me. So, and they were free, so we're off to a good start. Under my bench, I have lots of raw material, so that's not an issue. The only thing really missing was, and I'll show you on the brake I bought, there's 1-inch OD, 3/4 ID springs that are about 5 inches tall that would return the upper, I call it a knife, the upper V portion of the press brake. So when you let off, for instance, this is going to be pushed back up, but the springs will lift it so you can get work in and out of it. So let's go look at the other one and we'll go from there. I found this brake on Amazon. It was around $150. The center of the V and the V itself is quite generous, not as generous as the hydraulic one I have, but it will provide a crisper bend, if you will. All I had to do was assemble this, and I had this piece of, it's an old wrist pin for a diesel engine, And this is ready to press. I haven't even tried to use it yet. We probably will in this video as well. This particular press, it's old, it was a gift, but I have an air cylinder on it if I don't feel like pumping it. So in seconds, I set it up and it's ready to use. Do I need one on the metal Ironworker? No, but it's more of a want than a need. So let's continue on the project. You'll have to forgive me this morning while I was waiting for a gentleman to pick up a transmission and another guy to drop off a transmission. I started cutting my stock, but what I have, the base is going to be a piece of 3/8 plate. It was already cut to this length and width. Ultimately, it'd be a little wider, but if I choose to use the 2 1/2-inch bolts that hold it to the frame on the metal worker, I'll stick a couple tabs on it. But in general, that's going to work. The piece I call the knife, I don't know the correct terminology. I should probably look it up, but it's kind of like a knife. Is wider than it needs to be. And that's why I'm going to set up my chop saw outside. I find that easier. The abrasive chop saw leaves a cloud, makes a lot of mess that settles on everything. So if I can cut it outside, I'm better off. Not currently raining, so I need to shorten this. This is too wide. And it looks a lot better. When I got it the other day, it was greasy and rusty. An odd combination, but it was both. So I cleaned that up this morning, again, while waiting. The lower portion, you can see how tight this is. So it's going to be, if it works at all, it's going to make a really crisp bend. It'll probably limit how thick I can do, but again, I have 2 other press brake rigs to bend whatever I'm trying to bend up, but by itself, it's too narrow. Well, it would work. Probably this width would bend anything I want to bend, but if I have this piece, I can gain 2 inches. I've already done the measuring, so I need to cut this one off as well, and then weld them together, and I'll grind the V out so you won't know I put them together. I won't bother grinding the weld on the outside, so that will allow me to build one as wide as the space allows, and this piece does fit in the Metal Pro. So for uprights, just some 3/4 rod. These are going to go right on the end. So obviously these pieces will have to fit in between. These return springs, I looked them up on McMaster Car. They had a 3-pack for like $12 plus shipping. The day I went to pick up these segment pieces, I was driving right by a hardware store, and lo and behold, $3.39 a piece. We're in businesses. I haven't even ground the end where I cut it here, so little spot on there. So that's going to be like that. The spring is holding it crooked. Now there's a piece on the end. Okay. So that'll go like that. And now I need 2 round pieces of tubing to weld on the knife with 3/4 holes in them. So I chose solid. I didn't have any pipe that I found. I didn't dig very hard, but simple matter to bore a 3/4 hole in this, and this will be super rugged. I think it's better off that way. If there's any twisting, this isn't going to be a problem anyway, and hopefully the 3/4 solid won't be either. So that's the gist of the project. I'm probably going to bore a 3/4 hole in this and weld it on both sides. Why not? I could try to set it up and get it right, but it's actually easier if I bore a hole and set it in the hole. So I'm going to do some measuring and cut these. I've already cut all my stock, and I'll be back in a minute. And we're back. It's about we'll call it 4 hours later. I'm all hot and sweaty. I took a break a while ago to get a drink and something to eat while things were cooling. And we'll have to call this a prototype, even though it's all the parts I had. And it does work. I just got to do some tweaking. And I learned a lot. So if nothing else, I can share that. So I was able to weld the lower shoe together. That was easy. I mentioned before I was going to cut it outside, but it started raining again. So just for kicks, I tried it on the bandsaw, and the bandsaw cut the bottom one, no problem. It cut the top all the way down. You can see the line where it's hardened now that I know what I'm looking at. They hardened the very the V portion of it. So I was able to cut down that far, and then with the death wheel, easily whip through the hardened portion. So we got it to size. However, I wish I had shortened the lower part a little more because my springs are so tight on the side. I'm not getting all the spring action. They're bound up right here. So I need to pry them out of there and maybe shim a ½ inch or so. I mean, I have enough room. That's all I could ever bend anyway, but I'd like it to go up. This all goes up more. Obviously, I can adjust this. This is just temporary, so that's a mistake. I got it too tight here, but I think I can fix it. Boring out these tubes, it started as solid metal, is boring at best. It's once you get above ½ inch, the Morse taper on the drill chuck of my small lathe will spin. Fortunately, I have a big lathe, and you got to go starting at ½ inch in 1/16 increments up to 3/4. So I had these are 3/4 shaft. These are 3/4. This was machine fit. It felt awesome until I welded it. It doesn't need to be that tight with what you do, and these are just guides. I had them, machine fit. So I had to bore them out after I got it all welded to 13/16. So now I got plenty of room there. So that was a mistake. I should have just gone big to start with while I had them in the lathe. Live and learn. I welded the uprights to here after I bored the holes. No problem there. I stuck this upside down so this flat surface was sitting here to align these, and it was a little bit of trouble getting it back apart because it was pretty good until it wasn't. But I got it apart, let it cool off, bored it out like I mentioned. So now, again, my spring action is only happening up here, so I need to fix that. So this is just a temporary block, but there's a cutout right here that actually fits pretty well. So I've used it one time. Hang on. And as I expected, when I make this will be good for making small brackets. It's very crisp. So let's make one. Ready? Thing's pretty quiet. I haven't bolted it down yet, so that's the first time I really gave it a good squish, and it wants to move, so I got to put some tabs on it so it doesn't move. But that's a 90-degree bend, nice and sharp, doesn't break it, so that's cool. Again, if I was to build a second one, which I don't plan on, I know more now than I did a few hours ago. So that's it for today. A little tweaking, a little paint, and it'll be a functional piece. So thanks for following along. I hope you had a good Saturday afternoon, and catch you in a couple days. Clicker.